give us the opening statements and then call the roll.
All right, Mr. Chair. It is 5 o'clock on July 29th, 2026. And this is the Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates Standing Committee on Governmental Affairs and Rules. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this virtual meeting of the Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates Standing Committee on Governmental Affairs and Rules will be conducted via remote means only in accordance with applicable law. Members of the public will watch the meeting through live real-time broadcast at www.youtube.com/user/Barnstable County. The public participation guide and meeting documents are available in advance at www.capecod.gov. The County of Barnstable does not discriminate in the administration of its programs or activities on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or other category protected by state and federal anti-discrimination laws and regulations. Reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities are available upon request. For more information or to file a complaint, please contact Justina Marchak, Barnstable County ADA Non-Discrimination Coordinator at jmarczak@capecod.gov. Call 508-375-6646 or visit www.capecod.gov. Members of the public may also attend the meeting remotely, and that information is available there as well. And the chair did ask for a roll call, and so I believe the first person on that roll call is the chair, Chair Frizel.
Here.
Delegate Green.
Here.
Delegate Killian.
Here.
Dean Dennis, Delegate Finance Chair, and in this meeting, Vice Chair, the one, the only John Oman. Are you here, sir?
Yes, to all of the above.
Okay, and Delegate O'Malley from Provincetown. You are here, sir?
Here.
And we do have two alternates, Delegate Harder from Harwich and Delegate Gallagher from Eastham if you need them, sir.
Terrific. Okay, so let's get going. We have two items on our agenda. A new one, Resolution 26-09. I believe we have a guest with us, if I'm not mistaken, Delegate Green. So I would exercise my discretion to take that up before 5 because we don't want to have to force a guest to sit and listen to us go back and forth on our rather internal business. But it's a public meeting. If you really get interested, you're entitled to stay. I will turn this item number 4, Resolution 2026-09, for our initial presentation to us from Delegate Green, who is a sponsor. Delegate Green.
Thank you very much, Chair Frizel. I really do appreciate taking these items out of order and also having the opportunity to talk about this resolution and letter. This proposed resolution letter is in support of the construction of the Orleans Historical Society's Ocean Rescue Museum. The planned museum will preserve the historic Coast Guard 36-500 motor lifeboat that performed the greatest small boat rescue in Coast Guard history. It rescued 32 crew members from the SS Pendleton in 1952. If approved by the Assembly of Delegates, the resolution and letter will be helpful in raising funds for the museum. Both will be attached to grant applications, leveraged in the media, and also in securing donations. From my perspective, this is a win-win for the nonprofit as well as the Assembly, and I urge everyone to support it.
Thank you, Delegate Green. Are there questions, comments from members of the committee? No hands are raised. Okay, Delegate Green.
Thank you, Chair Frizel. With no hands raised, I would therefore like to propose that we recommend to the full Assembly the adoption of the resolution and letter at the next Assembly meeting.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this resolution. Last chance for anyone who has questions, who wants to discuss it before we take a vote on the resolution. Not seeing any hands, I will then ask the clerk to call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Deputy Speaker Frizel.
Yes.
Delegate Green.
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley.
Yes.
That's 5, Mr. Chair.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll recommend it to the full assembly at our meeting on August 5th and hopefully receive the same kind of unanimous support there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, next order of business. Resolution 2026-05, which is a resolution which proposes amending the Assembly of Delegates Manual of Governance and Procedure, Section 14, on the procedure for consideration of proposed ordinances. Now, this was discussed and presented to this committee at a prior meeting. It has been since revised by the sponsor, Delegate Killian. So I will open the discussion here by asking Delegate Killian if he would like to comment on the new revised version before there's other questions and comments from the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just comment to obviously we had a rather substantive discussion regarding this resolution at our last meeting. And I tried to incorporate, or I and Clerk Fletcher tried to incorporate all the concerns into it. But I just want to make clear my objective here. I know there was a lot of concern. People were worried that this was going to somehow slow the process down or was going to deliberately slow the process down. And that wasn't the case. My goal here is two objectives. One is to give the committees more responsibility to ensure that what they review is done thoroughly and that there is a majority in agreement with what goes forth. But also, and probably maybe more importantly, is that submissions to the assembly will be thoroughly thought through and vetted prior to arriving, so that one, if they don't bring these proposals to us that have been thoroughly thought through and vetted, then they're going to be subjected to such, which could slow the process down. We've had a couple of submissions over the last several months that, in my opinion, lack a lot of substance, which means the committees have to delve into them. And so I'm hoping to encourage those who submit will provide the material or the research up front, and it'll give the committees a much more easier task. But be that as it may, the committee should have the responsibility to vet these proposals and do so in a manner that allows them to send them to the assembly with a majority vote, whether it's with recommendations or some changes to it, whether they be minor or substantive. That is the goal here. And I also want to remind my fellow delegates that this is merely a resolution. And if we were to adopt it and it doesn't work and it's slowing things down and people get frustrated with it, we can simply reverse it and remove it, and we don't have to, we go back to the way it was. So again, this is my attempt to make the process a little more comprehensive for the assembly's subcommittees.
Thank you, Delegate Killian. Just a clarification to start, if you may. It says that the item will not be referred to the full assembly from the committee until the committee submits a final report on the item, which has been affirmatively approved by a majority of the voting members of the committee. So let me understand that. It doesn't have to be voted with a majority of the committee recommending it. It just needs a report that a majority of the committee says ought to be released to the assembly. Let me understand what you mean by those words.
Yes, that a report would be submitted, and that report would reflect the view of a majority of the committee members. Now, obviously, if there were dissenting members, that information would be in there too. So you could have, 3 people who were in agreement with what was the report, and you could have 2 people who were disagreement, but their disagreement and their reasons for it could be part of the report as well. But for the report to be concluded and passed to the assembly, it would take an affirmative of a majority of the members.
Well, you could have. I guess I'm a little confused about that. How this is different from the last time, because it is from what I've read in legislative procedure in Congress and the State House, reports go from committees even if that report doesn't have a majority of the members who favor the action. It could be a report like 2-3. three members, there's a majority. Yeah, there's a majority saying send the report with an unfavorable recommendation. That's a report.
I'm not aware of that. I know that when they go to study legislature in committee, it has to receive a favorable review to get out of committee, or it
No.
stays there.
No, I've checked that. It is not. Congress in Massachusetts legislature will not require that a favorable recommendation be made in order for a report to come from a committee. It can actually be reported unfavorably.
So it would be a
It can.
report, but it wouldn't be an affirmative vote out of committee. It would just be a report.
It would be a report saying the majority of the committee does not favor this.
You still there? You froze on
So
me
it can
there.
come out of committee. I'm sorry, it can come from the committee to the floor. Even though the report of the committee is, we do not recommend that the full body adopt this piece of legislation. It comes out of the committee. It doesn't have to come out of committee only if the majority says we recommend the full body adopt this legislation.
Okay, I mean that's I understand that part of it, but that would I guess you're right. So that would have to come out of committee then, that it was not recommended.
Yeah. I see Delegate Green. Go ahead.
To that point, if the report reflects that it is not a good idea, and it's that can also be a report to the full assembly. I mean, the goal and objective, of course, would be to come up with something that actually it answers the issues and something that's viable and workable, that everybody would agree with in the committee. But if the committee is looking at a proposal and they write a report and they say this is just not feasible, and recommend that it, I mean, if it was presented as a resolution, and the committee is dealing with it, and the committee decides by a majority that this is just not workable, and that recommendation is to the assembly. To me, the revisions in this document reflect that as well. I mean, that was my question.
Go ahead. Do you want to respond to that, Delegate Killian, before I take Delegate Owen? Yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you. And Delegate, that is correct. That is exactly what I was looking for. I was looking for the committees to try and resolve any issues they had with the particular piece, whether it's an ordinance or resolution, so that they could agree, or a majority would agree, that this is a better piece of legislation to go to the assembly, that they wouldn't just push it out of committee at a 3-2 vote, say, yeah, we don't like this, but instead they would work to produce something that a majority of the committee agreed was worthwhile for the assembly. That is the ultimate goal here.
May I have a follow-up, please?
Okay,
Follow up?
Okay, they're good.
Yeah, so in other words, but if they were, I mean, I understand that's your goal, but at the same time, if they're not able to come up with something, and they just feel that this is just an unworkable resolution after all, and they say we would recommend to the full assembly that this not be passed because it is a resolution, it is coming to a standing committee, and then it would go to the full assembly. I mean, it sounds to me that this resolution would also allow that to happen. Am I correct or not?
Through the chair, yes, that is really the goal here. And yes, we could, the vote could come out of committee in negative, but again, the report would reflect that a majority of the committee did not agree with it, did not think the assembly should follow through with it. But again, the ultimate goal here is to put something out of committee that a majority agree with, make the changes to it that are necessary, so that the assembly has something that they can vote on, and they can look to see what we have uncovered, we've added to it to make it more palatable.
Okay. Delegate Oman, and then Delegate O'Malley.
Well, I think Delegate Green asked the right question. So as long as, no matter, I think giving more power to the committee members to come up with a conclusion and to more debate is a very positive thing. As long as I don't care if they vote 0-5, they don't like it. It has to go to the full assembly as a 0-5 vote and why they did it. As long as it goes to the assembly, like even with the finance committee, we recommend to the full assembly no matter what, and we do a lot of work to do that. But it has to go to the full committee. It has to go to the full assembly. That's all. That's why I want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Delegate O'Malley.
Right. I think it feels to me like the language that's difficult is report on the item which has been affirmatively approved. And I think what we're recognizing here is that a proposed resolution that the committee votes 4-1, let's say, against, thinks it's a terrible idea. The assembly should still hear about it. So it wasn't approved, but there was a vote taken. And so I almost think what we have to say is the committee will take a vote, will take a vote amongst itself and report that vote to the full assembly. Whether it's approved or not, I like the goal of, yes, we work on it and see if we can't find something that's agreeable to a majority of the committee. But there may be times when it's, let's just say it's some sort of real dingbat concept that somebody submitted, and the rest of the committee says this doesn't make sense. Let's not pass it along. It still should go to the assembly to report out the fact that we gave it consideration. We talked about it. So I seems to me we just need a little clarification in that item 1, section 1, whatever the section 1:1.
In fact, in that regard, I think if we change the language slightly, the committee submits its final report, which has been affirmatively approved. So the report has been affirmatively approved.
That does.
I think that does it.
Yeah, I think that would do it. Because the report could be a thumbs up, the report could be a thumbs down. We should hear about it.
Right. I think that the assembly has to hear about it, even if it's a thumbs down. I agree that the goal here is to try to put something in a condition that we think will improve it, make it something that committee accepts and we believe should be accepted by the assembly. But there are some things that come before the committee which cannot be repaired, in the view at least of the committee. And it still ought to have its day in the assembly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Okay, I see the clerk and then Delegate Killian. The clerk, Mr. Fletcher.
I'll let the sponsor go first.
All right, Delegate Killian.
That's fine. I was just going to comment on the last few comments. So then if the assembly then feels, regardless of how the committee views something, whether they believe it's valuable or not, we're still going to give it to the committee, to the full assembly for debate. So I guess that would beg the question of why have the committee? We should just give it to the full assembly from the start. I'm trying to get to the heart of the matter here, and this is to kind of weed out. The attempt here is to kind of weed out the things so that the assembly is voting on things that really are viable, and that's kind of what the committee is supposed to do, is ferret out the details. So you're saying, regardless of how good or bad this may be, if this could be 0-5, it would be 1-4, whatever it is, we're still going to vote on it. And that just seems a little awkward to me. It seems a little inefficient that we're going to go ahead and have a full hearing anyway. So let's talk about the point of the committee then. If we're just going to, regardless of what comes through our door, regardless how horrible it may be or how good it may be, it's going to the full assembly. So it just seems inefficient to me to go through the committee process.
Okay, I'm going to allow others to comment. I have a comment on that myself. Clerk Fletcher, do you want to yield again to the delegate? Or do you want to?
I want to clarify a couple of things very carefully. One, the change that would be made by this resolution, I think that's important to consider, is that right now we have a custom that ordinances go to committee, but they don't have to, right? And even under this ordinance, as it's written now, the assembly would have to vote to kind of take it back once it's referred. So you could imagine a situation where the committee does its work and a majority of the committee members feel as though they want to keep working. Well, then it's a to Delegate O'Malley's point, the assembly would still hear about it because there's a committee report every time a committee meets, but that would be a partial report, not a final report. And then the thresholds to take it back and discharge it from committee come into play, right? And so, yeah, there's really two ways that a committee could do this. If it wants to keep working because it doesn't think something's worthy of the assembly's consideration, then it can vote to make a partial report or not vote to give any kind of final report. And then it kind of stays with the committee until the assembly gives it back, right? So I just wanted to point out the mechanism of how this would function in our current kind of system, right? That if you had a situation where a committee felt that something wasn't worth the assembly's time or they were working to make it worth the assembly's time, that they could certainly just vote to give a partial report. Or if 4 of the 5 members think it's terrible, you would hope that the assembly would have no trouble disposing of that very fast. But I just wanted to point out how this is currently written would function with the rules that we have and the procedure that we have.
Delegate O'Malley, then Delegate Green.
Right, thank you. Following up on Delegate Killian's questions about what this would imply, I think we've all seen that what the recent practice of in-depth consideration by the committees has done has allowed us to dig a lot deeper, to really spend time on matters, and I think we come out with much better outcomes. And yes, it's possible that, in a sense, a committee will spend time doing that and then vote with a negative recommendation. And that may be less efficient to take a proposal that's not viewed very favorably and submit it to the assembly. But I think efficiency is a goal that I would put as second to thoroughness and outcome. Quite frankly, efficiency is not our number one product here. What we're looking for is to get the fullest thing. I'm a little bit concerned personally about the ability of a committee that might consist on any given moment of 4 people to subvert, to take off the agenda of the assembly a matter that should be considered. And so I'm comfortable with the idea that yes, committee study and make a recommendation up or down, but that's a recommendation to the full assembly, which they can follow or not. There's going to be discussion again there, but it will be informed by all that's been already done in committee hearings.
Delegate Green. You're muted.
Yeah, I know. I was trying
Okay.
to unmute.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so just just looking at pitfalls, I really do think that it is really critically important that the full assembly vote on the work of standing committees. I do think sometimes, though, that the work in a standing committee is sometimes brought back to the full assembly, half-baked. I mean, truly, something like this, I think, would give pause before. I mean, the standing committee would have the power to say, we want to keep it in committee. The state legislature can keep things in committee forever, and they do. And things just die in committee. So that, I think, is also just a concern, that as long, just as a safeguard, so things just don't end up in really basically a dead end. That's a concern. Thank you.
Clerk Fletcher.
Oh, I didn't even mean to have my hands up, but I mean,
Oh.
but I will point out again, there's really nothing that the body can do to put something out of reach of what the majority of you want, kind of ever. Even if you changed your rules to do that, a majority of you can change the rules back. Like there's nothing a committee can do to subvert all of you together. unless there's a higher threshold that's in an ordinance or the charter. And really, just the charter. Just to point out that this is the way that it works now. If there was a referral now, there are rules for discharge. You can't. There's no matter what rule you make, you can never put something out of the control of a majority. I'll say.
Delegate Killian.
I would just say, ask the delegates here, because most of us here, I think all of us, have been committee chairs. And you can say, okay, can you ever envision in your own committee where this would be problematic? Because I know, and through working through mine, we've always, in finance, for example, finding solutions to problems. And that's what this is all about. My concern about allowing this to go through without majority support is it kind of defeats the first purpose of this, is to make sure that what comes to the assembly is a viable product. And so that when it comes, some homework has been done on it and people understand what they're submitting. But if they know it's going to go to the full assembly, regardless of what happens in subcommittee, it kind of reduces the necessity to provide the material that they need for that first level of scrutiny. So again, I hear everybody here, and I'm willing to take half a loaf on this if the folks here say, well, we don't want to do it that way, we can do it fine. But this, whatever we do, if we do partial of this, it's going to be improvement of what we have. But I think most of you recognize that this is an attempt to make a better product, to do a little more work with the committees and make sure that what comes out of them is a better product than what came in. And that's what we're trying to do here from the beginning.
Okay, Delegate Harder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Deputy Speaker. In terms of giving people, a real life example of what this would do, the home rule petition would have had none of Delegate Frederickson's amendments that Delegate Killian voted for. But none of those would have gone to the assembly because they were voted down in committee 4-1. So if, it could very well be that if you say it has to be a unanimous positive, it has to be, majority unanimous positive, a lot of things you would like to vote on, you wouldn't have gotten to vote on in that case. Those are the real world, not applications, what's the word? The real world and endings for this is that, you could very easily not be able to vote on something you believed in because it wasn't the majority of the committee. So I'm just saying that I think you might want to be careful about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I see Delegate Killian and then the clerk again. Go ahead, Delegate Killian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nothing I'm proposing would preclude any delegate from making amendments to anything that goes to the full assembly at all. So in the example that Delegate Harder used, I'm not sure how what we're discussing here today would have had any effect on that whatsoever, because even if recommendations made in committee were different than one other delegate's proposal, all those things can be made on the floor of the assembly when it's debated.
Clerk Fletcher.
I'm having a little tech trouble. Did not mean to have my hand up.
Oh. Okay, so let me just throw this out, Delegate Killian, if you're in the mood of half a loaf. What if we slightly change the language of 1 to say submits its final report, which has been affirmatively approved? You're muted.
That's fine. Again, I'm listening to my committee members, and I understand their concerns, and I'm just hoping that these changes will achieve what I'm trying to achieve, with my two goals of having the committees provide substantive review and change, as well as encouraging those who submit ordinance or resolutions in front of us provide the detail that is necessary.
So I guess I will propose as an amendment to this resolution that in line 15, we delete the words "on the item" so that it would read, "The committee submits its final report, which has been affirmatively approved by a majority of the voting members." Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. There's discussion. Delegate O'Malley.
I'm wondering what we mean by affirmatively approved. I'm not sure how we could approve it non-affirmatively. That feels a little redundant.
I see.
If I may, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I think that
Yeah.
it makes sense because the vote would have to be, the report would have to be voted on. That's all it's basically saying, that you could just say the committee submits a final report, but one that's been voted on and approved, I think is all we're trying to stress there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think I interpret those words to mean that the report, which could in itself say that unfavorable action has been affirmatively approved by a majority of the committee.
Okay.
That time I'm raising it for real.
Okay.
I do understand why Delegate O'Malley thinks it might be redundant, but there are also a couple other things going on here that you may not catch, which are good things. That quorum of a 5-member committee is 3, and we've seen this before. You could have a case where you've got a simple majority of the members that are present and voting. That's not a majority of the committee, or you could have members abstain. So I think that maybe that was what Delegate Killian was intending, is to actually have a majority of the committee members want to stop working, whether that's negatively or positively, right? Because that's not the way that it works now.
Well, let me ask for further clarification. Affirmatively approved by a majority of the voting members. That means there's 5 voting members of every committee. It has to, for that report to be released, regardless of whether it says adopt it or don't adopt it, it has to have 3 people say, get the committee report out to the full assembly. Correct?
Which I think is I think different than what you have now, where you could have a situation where let's say you've got 5 members of the committee and 2 members abstain, and only 2 of the 3 remaining want to do something. So I think what this is saying is that you would need a majority of the members of the committee that can vote telling you that they were done working, or that they had a final opinion, either one way or another. And if it was a partial opinion and the assembly's tired of waiting, they could vote to take it back.
The assembly always has the power to take it back as the fallback position. That's correct. Either by 2/3 or majority vote, depending upon when the full assembly raises the issue. All right, so on the floor is the proposed amendment to delete the words "on the item." Further discussion on that amendment? I don't see any hands, so let's take a roll call vote on that, Mr. Clerk.
Okay,
Mr. Clerk.
so that's Deputy Speaker Frizel,
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Delegate Green,
Yes.
Dean Omen,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley.
Yes.
That's 5, Mr. Chair.
So I think we need next to just vote vote this resolution as amended, correct?
Vote to recommend it to the full assembly as amended. Yeah, so you're basically voting to recommend the full assembly make or you're voting it for this form. It's not an ordinance, so you're not. I mean, you can submit it to the assembly in the form that you want it out of committee anyway. I don't. So we'll figure that out.
Well, I will move then for this resolution to be recommended to the full assembly as amended. So that, I think, needs a second and then a vote.
I'll second.
Any further discussion before we take this vote? Yes, Delegate Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to say a big thank you to Delegate Killian. I mean, he stuck with it and he followed, he was a man of his word, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that he had a point of view and he brought it to us and he worked it through. So I did want to say thank you.
Thank you. I think that's correct. I agree with those comments. So, call the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Chair Frizzell,
Yes.
Delegate Green,
Yes.
Delegate Killian,
Yes.
Vice Chair Omen,
Yes.
Delegate O'Malley.
Yes?
That's everyone, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, everyone. I think with that, we will, oh, yes, Delegate Killian, please.
Thank you. I just want to thank Delegate Green for the kind words and also just acknowledge Clerk Fletcher's assistance with this matter.
Thanks. Thanks for getting it to this stage. Let's see what happens at the assembly. It'll be on the docket for August 5th. And I guess just a hunch on my part that there'll be some discussion. With that, I have no further business. I will declare that we are adjourned unless someone has some objection to my doing that. I don't see any hands raised. So thank you, everyone, for your attendance at 5:30 at night, 5:36. And let's have a good evening and see everyone next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.